All right, we're here. Tyler Siskey. A lot of people, a lot of Ole Miss people especially, that watch your show there, McCready and Siskey podcast. I can't get enough of it, but you've been there's not often a lot of people reach out to me and like, you got to get this guy on. You got to get this guy on. So having you on, and I just got to say, Tyler, I mean, I don't know what the hell got in your ass on Monday, but you fucking melted down your show there. What caused all that?
That's just me on a daily basis. I always joke. I have three letter issues. You know, I have ADD, I have OCD, and I have CTE. So just whichever one is acting up that day, you never know. So no, I probably come from a little bit different perspective than most people. Never really woke up at any point in my life and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a podcast today. I've never. But I'm kind of I try to be the same guy behind the microphone that I am in normal life. And so it's just me being me. When I was a coach and I was in that world for 20 something years. And that's me on a daily basis. And sometimes I get passionate, / pissed off about some things. And I think fans after all these years, deserve to see what is going on and what people that actually did it and what people think. And we have a ton of coaches listen to our show, which is really cool. I don't know how many podcasts actually have as many coaches. I mean, it's wild. This week, after the videos that my social media guy put out, I think I was joking the other day. I think there's 16 teams in the league. I think I've received texts from 13 of the 16 staffs in the SEC this week. So it's fun. It's more like the coaches were very appreciative of the comments. Some fan bases in particular, not so much.
Yeah. So maybe quickly, can you, just for my audience, maybe some of them are unfamiliar with you. Can you quickly go over your background and maybe like some of the schools and coaches you worked with?
Yeah. So, I went to Auburn out of high school, met my lovely wife. My wife was a gymnast at Auburn. I was probably, if you look in the history of Auburn football and you had to rank the worst players that ever wore the uniform, I'm close to the top. I'm definitely top 99.99% of the worst players to ever play there. And then a guy named Tommy Tuberville got the job I'm an OG. I know sometimes I still got a baby face a little bit. I'm holding up a little bit, but when Tuberville got the job, I transferred. Ended up being one of the best moves of my life. I transferred and finished up at Troy University. It was Troy State back then. Larry Blakeney was the head coach there, and Larry Blakeney has had as much influence on me than any coach I've ever had. And I was just slightly better there than I was at Auburn. I'm talking about just like this much better than being the worst player there that's ever wore the uniform there. But he didn't owe me anything. I wasn't a superstar, obviously, for him or nothing like that, but he evidently saw something. I got hurt. I wish I could tell you I had a bad knee injury while I was playing the game. I wish I could give you one of those good stories, but I did get hurt. And then Mike Turk, who's the head coach at Huntington, and he always has a joke. I fell off the roof. I was helping my dad paint a house. I fell 37 and a half feet off of a roof.
Shit.
And you know how you roll your ankle? I rolled my leg. And so I had a broke tib, fib, cracked femur, dislocated ankle, and broke 2 bones in my feet, disc issues, the whole deal. But needless to say, that ended any aspirations I had of playing the game again. And so Larry, this was before everybody was cell phoned up. Larry Blakeney called me in the hospital. I was in the hospital in Birmingham, and he said, "Hey, I've talked to Doc. I know you're done." He says, "I have a spot helping coach receivers. Would you be interested?" And so I was like, "Yes, sir." And so that's how I had no aspirations of being a college coach. I was just going to be a high school coach, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. And so that's how I got started. So I finished my degree at Troy and coached the first year with Jeremy Rowell. He was a receivers coach. Don Jacobs, another heavy influence, Mike Turk, all those guys, Jim Dye. And then got a job got lucky. That's a long story, but one of the most lucky things that would never happen again in the history of time. I got how I got the job at Northwestern State with a guy named Steve Roberts. And I went and I was coaching, and I had my own position. I started coaching tight ends at Northwestern State. We won there. He got the job at Arkansas State. I went with him to Arkansas State. And then got married and had to get a real job, because I know people don't realize this, but a lot of coaches don't make a lot of money back then. So I was a high school coach in Mobile, Alabama for 4 years, and then had an opportunity to go back to Arkansas State as a receivers coach. Did that for 4 years, and then got hooked up with this guy, our offensive coordinator turned head coach, was a guy named Hugh Freeze. So I got hooked up with him, went to Ole Miss with him, and then was there 1 year, and then get a call out of the blue from a guy named Nick Saban. And so went to Alabama, was there with Coach Saban in Alabama for a few years. Wanted to get back on the field and get back my own position room. And so went to South Alabama with Joey Jones. Went there for a few years, and then one of my good friends on the planet, one of my best friends of all time, Matt Luke, gets the head job at Ole Miss. Went back with him. And then to kind of complete the saga, guy pees in the end zone, gets us all fired, and then then this little pandemic hits, and I started my business. So here we are, and I'm talking to you on podcast. I've made it full circle. I made it full circle. Let's go.
Well, I appreciate that backstory. So I just want people to know that you are uniquely qualified, unlike knuckleheads like me and cousin Shane just sit here and talk shit. But you actually
it's great though. It's great. One of my favorite shows. I watch it every chance I get.
I appreciate it. Well, so again, so you're in communication with some people, and you know what's going on, and it just seems like, I mean, we all know this, but again, with your contacts, you can put a lot more context to it. But it's a shit show right now, and it's just, I mean, I've got things written down here. I don't even know where you want to go with this one, but let's go with let's start with football IQ, with just players seemingly at an all-time low. We got people making business decisions out here. They don't know when to get down. We're trying to score. You fall down. We win this game. I mean, why is football IQ at an all-time low, you think, with these players?
I think it's a generational problem. I don't think it's a sport problem. And I'm going to be honest with you. When we grew up, and I say we, that's anybody probably listening to this show. I mean, this happens in baseball too, right? I mean, you grew up watching games, and kids don't grow up watching games. I mean, TikTok's a great example, right? So today on TikTok, we passed 70,000 followers on our TikTok account, right? 70,000 people don't watch the full show, right? On YouTube at one time or whatever it is. Now you'll have 8 or 10,000 or whatever it is, but people like short bursts. And so the attention span to sit down and watch a baseball game, that's how we learned how to play the game. Watch football. You see situational football. Like perfect example, how many, let's call it 13 to 25-year-old kids have any clue, like we're watching the Ohio State-Oregon game at that point when Dan Lanning put 12 people on the field? That was the most ingenious thing I've ever seen. I've never even thought of it. And every coach I spoke to hadn't even thought about it. Ingenious. And that's hard to come up with a fresh idea in coaching world, right? Ingenious. But 20 years ago, you would see something like that and you would remember it to when you became a player or you became a coach. Like, hey, I remember seeing this or whatever, or, certain situational football or whatever it was. Hey, that's how you learned the game. And right now that's a pandemic. Kids just younger people don't watch full games and don't watch the game like we used to watch it. Back in the day, you had the Jefferson Pilot game, you had the CBS game, and you were that ESPN 6 o'clock, whatever prime time. Well, now you got an app, you can watch as much as you want to, or you can watch the YouTube clips or whatever you want to. And so people see small bursts of games. They don't see the parts of the game that educate you. So I think that's a problem there. When it comes to business decisions, boy, this could be a long question. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. The business decisions are real simple. We have taken, what's the best way to put this? We've allowed politics. I'm not going to politic your show here, but we've allowed politics to infiltrate sports. Okay. That's problem one. And with doing that, everybody wants everybody to get something, which I'm for the players getting paid. Let me say that very clear. I am for the players getting paid, but this is what you get when you have players getting paid with no regulation. Okay. You have a wide audience. I try to say this as much as I can to describe my point here. Because a lot of people, I'm sure when this goes on your channel, there's going to be a lot of people going, oh, glad for the players, da 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 da. Here's the problem, okay? I'm going to say this and I'll leave it here because I have yet to find one person that can disagree with me on this point. The National Football League, Mike, do you agree National Football League, the NFL, is the greatest sports organization that's ever been created?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Imagine a world, Mike, in the NFL. Is there any disagreement that Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback in the NFL?
Nope.
All right. Would there be any team that refused to take Patrick Mahomes as their starting quarterback in the NFL?
No.
Okay. So imagine a world of this, Mike. Okay. Let me just throw this out there. Let me throw this scenario out there to you. Imagine a world that coming off this past Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was like greatest player ever, and all of a sudden Jerry Jones. We know Jerry Jones. He's a great dude, been a great businessman, very successful, and he's getting on up there, and he wants to see a Super Bowl before he checks out. And he picks up the phone and he goes, "Hey Patrick, check this out. I know you're making $450 million right now with the Kansas City Chiefs. But check this out. I'm Jerry Jones, and this is Texas. We don't have state taxes. I'm going to give you $1 billion to come down and be my starting quarterback." How long do you think they would take Patrick Mahomes to pack up and move to Kansas City?
He'd be done by the time he hung up the phone.
All right, now check this out. Now Patrick Mahomes goes down to Dallas. He gets an OTAs, and he goes and he's like, "Man, the only guy I got to throw to is CeeDee Lamb. Running game's not very good. CeeDee Lamb's the only target I got. This isn't going to work." And his agent says, "Hey, check this out, Patrick. Look, the Miami Dolphins, they got Tyreek Hill. They got Jalen Waddle. They don't have state taxes either. And look, I talked to the owner. They're going to give you $1.5 billion. Okay, how long do you think it would take for Patrick Mahomes to leave Dallas to go to Miami?
Yeah, he'd be there the next day.
Okay, so you've gone from Kansas City to Dallas before the start of the next season. And everybody's like, "That's crazy. That would never happen." That's exactly what college football is. It's exactly. Look at Tyler Barron. Look at Tyler Barron. It's at Miami. Great player. Played at Tennessee last year. Had like a day or two at Ole Miss. Didn't like it. Went to Louisville. Didn't like spring practice. He's playing at Miami. He's going from Tennessee to Ole Miss to Louisville to Miami before the start of the season. Like, what world do people think? There's a reason that we've created a world of unlimited free agency with no salary cap. It's not going to work. But everybody's like, "Oh, but good for the players. Great for the players getting all them." And they're like, and then here's the argument, because we're not live right now. This is taped. I can't wait because now there's probably somebody in the chat that's either already posted it or typing it as we speak. The first defense they come to is, "But the coaches can pick up and leave anytime they want to." Well, Mike, guess what happens when a coach picks up and leaves? He's got this thing called a buyout. It's in a contract. And so the team that he's leaving from gets monetarily awarded for him leaving. Okay. Ask Arkansas State how they built all those facilities. Ask Arkansas State how they built all those facilities. Because when I was there, we had chain link fences. Well, they got this beautiful facility now. Why do they have that? Because 4 years in a row, you had Hugh Freeze had to pay his buyout. Gus Malzahn, they had to pay their buyout. Brian Harsin paid his buyout. It was like boom, 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 boom. They got all this, all of a sudden they got an influx of money. Okay, so when players leave, there's no payment back. That's why the system can't work. And so that's why we're in the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah, and just to compound it, something that you said on your show, again, it's the conversations you guys are having are pretty unique. No leverage of accountability, because as soon as you jump someone's ass, well, there's 14 other schools that are going to take me. And I think it's clear as day that is translating on the field. And why Alabama's getting beat by Vanderbilt, and why, again, it may not be exclusively because of that reason, but I certainly think it is a reason. And Georgia doesn't quite look the same. This is just it's compounding an issue of you can't even coach these guys that hard.
All right, and I know this is it, but it happens everywhere, right? And people don't really, it doesn't compute when you create. Again, I'm for the players getting paid. Let me be very clear about that. Okay, but there's no regulation. All right, and so when you look at anything that ever has not, there's only been really one other example, and this is great because there's sports fans will understand this. When there's no regulation about all this stuff, the PGA Tour has been going through this for a few years, right? with Live coming in and paying gazillions of dollars, okay, for these players to leave the PGA and go to Live. I mean, for a long, right when they first do that, and these guys are professionals. They've worked to earn this. How many of those Live guys are really good players on the PGA Tour, and they go to Live and you don't even hear from them again? They can't make cuts because they don't have any incentive to work. There's no, eat what you kill mentality. And in the NFL, there is, because there's contracts. Okay. And there is, like, I gotta play really good in my contract year because next year's my free agency year. Well, not if you didn't have if you had free agency every year, you wouldn't see that because you're getting paid for doing nothing. And so for me, when it comes to business decisions, we got street agents trying to be real agents, like no real agent. And so they're getting bad advice. And these players, they have we've created a system of hired mercenaries. Okay. There used to be, and again, I'm going to sound like old man yelling at clouds. So I understand this. Okay. I understand. There is no, it's a going in the portal, what they're doing with it's a selfish act, and used to be the team aspect. Okay. And I've said this, and I know you got a ton of LSU fans that listen too. And I want to say this. I was very fortunate. One of the best things that ever happened to me. I was very fortunate to work with Nick Saban, and I learned so much from him. And everybody wants to talk about the process, and the process is great. All right. There's nothing he does is not great. But I say this, and I will say it. What made Nick Saban win games? What made Nick Saban be the greatest that ever did it? Is he acquired five-star to five, bunch of selfish people. By nature, whether you like it, I'm just going to be honest. The higher level the recruit is, the more selfish, individualized mentality that they have, right? And so I want to get mine. I want to get mine. What made Nick Saban great is he took 85 selfish assholes and he got them to play a team game. And that's why you see, in my opinion, right now we don't have that. Because in order to get them to play a team game, there's going to have to be some accountability in there. And that's what coaches, and that's not coaches, it's athletic departments. You're losing any kind of leverage. So in the old days, if you made a business decision, your ass is sitting on the bench because I have somebody else to replace your ass. Mm-hmm. Because the next guy in, if he's giving me 100%, he's better than your business decision. Well, the portal has taken away, and this is the SEC's problem, minus Texas. SEC teams don't have depth anymore. All their depth pieces are transferring because they're not sitting and developing. Marlon Humphrey's pretty good. Okay. Marlon Humphrey's a pretty good player, like really good. Marlon Humphrey didn't see the field his first year. Didn't see the field. Does Marlon? And I know Marlon's different because his dad was a legacy, but those days don't exist anymore. Coaches are having to play kids early that aren't ready to play. They're not ready to play. You're having to play kids early, and your depth pieces are gone. You don't have anybody to replace them with. And so it's very hard, and everybody's like, well, just sit him on the bench, okay? Well, that's really easy for a fan to say, but coaches, it's a scoreboard business, okay? You get hired and fired. I want to keep my $1 million job, my multi-million-dollar job. I want to keep it. And so you're a person too. You got a family to feed. My loyalty is at the house, and you're forced to play players because you have nobody. It gives you the best chance to win because you don't have any depth to replace them with. And so it's a big cluster that's jacked the whole deal up. And then whether, fans' answer is always, well, they're getting millions of dollars. They just throw it away. They're getting paid millions of dollars. Boom. Well, that's why your product's shitty too. So every action that you do has consequences. And finally, if they're awake and understanding what's going on, you're seeing the consequences of the decision to go down this route. And it was just a matter of, it wasn't an if, it was when. Well, when's here.
Right. And then, so I'm so hyper-focused on the SEC. Hell, I don't even pay attention to the other teams. Not that there's not great football elsewhere, but it kind of made so much sense. You were saying on your show, again, hell, look at, what is it, Army and Navy, they're undefeated. Iowa State's in the top 10. No, I get it. BYU, if these teams were in the SEC, yeah, they'd get their ass kicked. People are going to comment that as well. But the point being is, these teams that don't have a bunch of NIL that are coaches that develop the talent. Culture is a big deal, and we're seeing it at Vanderbilt. Mississippi State's playing their ass off. The Arkansas, which is, they always cry about not having enough NIL. Maybe that's a good thing, because as soon as they paid their quarterback, hell, there was like a mutiny on the damn team, because why is he getting all this money? He's not even producing. Now he's gone. But what is a solution? Where's this going, you think?
Yeah, so I gave this example to a coaching buddy of mine yesterday, the day before yesterday. We were talking. I said, look, about 15 years ago, the NCAA took off on I-10 out of LA. Okay, I-10 goes a long way, goes all the way across the country. So for 15 years, they've been driving down I-10 heading east. Okay, and they've passed thousands. They have passed thousands of exit ramps, and they just keep going forward. They're guys, like we've all been there. Okay, every person listening to this show has been there. You've been on the interstate, and you're driving, and you need gas. You need gas because my car's not going to run if I don't have gas. And I need gas. And I'm driving. I'm like, man, I'm not stopping there. I'm going to go to the next. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to push. I'm not stopping there. I'm going to the next one. Man, look at those gas prices. I'm going to go to the next one. Look at that. That looks like that's a rough spot for your boy. I'm going to keep driving. Okay, we've all pushed it. Okay, well, the NCAA, dude, we're in Jacksonville. All right, there are no more exits. Okay, the exits are gone. It's time to go. It's time to go north or south on 95. Okay, it's you got to make a decision. And so for me, the only solution that's left, and it will get here, it's not a matter of if, it's when it's going to happen, is their football, at least football, is going to have to break off and start their own entity. Now, part of that, which makes it hard, is you're going to have to have a college football commissioner. That's one. And then two, and I'll tell you why both are hard. And two, there has to be a players' union and collective bargaining. Okay. We are in a system right now to where there's nobody negotiating with each other. So when the NCAA comes up with rules or whatever it is, guess what's going to happen? The players are going to say no, and you're going to go to court. There's no collective bargaining. Like, this is common sense shit. Okay. Now, the second part of that, the college football commissioner. Well, here's the problem, right? Sorry about that. I'm giving you thumbs up and stuff. All right. So I'm learning all kinds of new Zoom tricks today. Look, be careful with my hand motions. That's the Nick Saban in me where I got to do this, right? All right. So the college football commissioner stuff is right now in college football. We can talk about the NCAA all we want to. The college football commissioners are running college football. Okay. Greg Sankey being number one. Greg Sankey is the best that ever lived. Okay. I don't know what everybody's opinion on the guy is. I love the guy. I think he's phenomenal. I've known him all the way back from when I was at Northwestern State 20-something years ago. The guy's great. All right. So, but Sankey, as good as he is, he serves 16 teams. And so he's got to look out for those 16 teams. Big Ten, he got to look out for the 18 teams. ACC, Phillips got to look out for the ACC. And there's no one that's looking out for the betterment of the whole game. Right. And so I would love Sankey to be that guy, or Coach Saban, actually. But they need to have there has to be a guy that goes, hey, Greg Sankey, thank you for your opinion. Hey, Phillips, thank you for your opinion. But this is what we're doing. Okay. And that's why nobody likes Roger Goodell, but he's damn good at his job. Okay. You got to have a guy that takes the bullets. You got to have a guy that takes all the, loves you got to have a messed up mentality like I have, where I enjoy trolls on social media. But you got to be, I know I messed up. I need help on that. I enjoy them. I think they're funny, but please feel free to troll me. It entertains me. But you got to have that guy that's got to put everything together and do that. Now, getting a players union is going to be work. Okay. But when we're talking about the betterment of college football, it's like the Project Rudy stuff that's out right now, right? Compared to the other ones. Like the other one, like sometimes these investment groups come up with these plans, and I'm like, guys, like the one that tried to go before them, that tried to post their, plan, part of their plan was doing away with the conferences. I was like, can you imagine? Like, I would like to know who invested money in a plan that said, hey, guys, I got this idea. Okay, we're going to break off college football, and we're going to get rid of the SEC, and we're going to get rid of the Big Ten. But we need to go to them and get their approval to do it first, though, okay? like, hey, Greg Sankey, this is what we're going to do. but you're going to lose your job. Are you cool with that? Like, I mean, like just common sense stuff, right? The Project Rudy stuff, I think it has a chance. Some people don't. I'm on the fence on it, but here's the deal: is the one thing it does do, and the only reason it has a chance is that $55 million check that the SEC is getting every year is going to turn into a $110 million check. And so when you start talking about green is a color that everybody likes. And so when you start talking about money, now things start changing a little bit, right? So, but eventually it's going to have to break off. Somebody's got to take the bull by the horns and do it, because if you don't, with this House versus the NCAA settlement, you're looking at bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people don't want to talk about that word. We're talking about bankruptcy. So, got to be careful. And I always say this, and I'll leave on this discussion to the fans, and everybody wants the players get paid and all that stuff. Be careful what you wish for, because you just may get it.
Yeah, and the last thing for you, I really appreciate your time. I don't want to take up all day here, but we all made big deals about this helmet communication, and I'm sure it's playing a part, but something interesting, I can't recommend your show enough. People need to check it out, the conversations you're having, but the iPads, how big has that been for college football with having video to break down, and how do you think that's changing the game, especially for these really good coaches like Brian Kelly's one that you shouted out on your show?
I think it's night and day. I think like I watch the SEC as like you do, right? But I watch other games. I watch a bunch of games. You got my setup back there, but I watch a bunch of games. But obviously watch the SEC, every SEC game. I think LSU has done as good of a job, if not better job, than anybody in the country when you watch their mid game adjustments. And it's iPad generated, right? And so as a coach, for the fans that understand, you game plan all week, right? And you're like, oh, they may do this, they may do that, and it never fails. And if coaches hear this, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It never fails. Sunday, you get in there, you start grading film, you turn it on, like, damn, I wish I had seen that yesterday. You just can't see everything live, and that's why you hear a lot of coaches in press conference say, I haven't watched the film yet. You see so much on Sunday that you haven't seen, that you didn't see live. Well, now it's instant. It's real-time feedback. Plays over, that play is on the iPad, right? And so, especially with staffs that have a ton of analysts, I mean, that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And so, example, if you go and all of a sudden, I use this example on the show the other day, is like, okay, like protection-wise, okay? So let's say we're running 6-man protection is something that we do, okay? And then every week when you game plan, I'll give you one, just throw it in my head just right there. Like Chris Jones, when he was at Mississippi State, okay? I didn't care where Chris Jones was located. I didn't care if he was at 3, he was at the nose, or he was at 5. It did not matter. Wherever Chris Jones is lined up, the quarterback knew, by God, we're setting the protection that way. We would have meetings every Tuesday. We call it a blitz meeting, okay? Blitz protection meeting with the quarterbacks. And you bring the quarterbacks in, and we're setting you give them all the looks. We're set, where to set the protection. Okay. Well, and it may be different than what you've done the week before. Okay. Like South Carolina, I'm sure gets a lot of, with their front, gets a lot of play on where we're setting the protection. And so you game plan that week to week. Well, the defensive coordinators wouldn't figure it out till Sunday. Well, it's too late. Game's over. Well, now you're seeing, okay, hey, they're setting their protection, 6-man go to here. So by tendencies, when they're going 6-man protection, it's third. Let's say that's their third and long thing. They're going 5 or 6-man protection, and I know how they're setting the front. Well, now I can call a blitz, simulated pressure, or whatever you're doing, and I know where to put my guys and who to drop out and who not to drop out to get the protection set one way to overload them on one side. And you're seeing that over and over again. I think what LSU's done, schematically with that, I think, and I'm going to say that's no LSU show. Have worked with them. I think Bo Davis and Kevin Peoples are 2 of the best defensive line coaches in America. Like if I had 5 to rank in America, they're getting 2 spots. I mean, I think that highly of them. I've worked with both of them. They're both elite. You give those guys. I've been in the room with those guys. You give those guys film immediate. I mean, it's night. And, offensively, how LSU adjusted offensively against South Carolina starting about midway through the second quarter. What happened? Do you remember what the score was at the end of the first quarter of that South Carolina LSU game?
I think it was 17-0. South Carolina was up.
What was the score from about halfway through the second quarter on?
Yeah, LSU dominated.
LSU Nussmeier did not stand on the protection point the rest of the game. Rest of the game. And you gave your guys a chance to win, like just small adjustments that you wouldn't see sometimes, you know. And you know, if your quarterback's getting hit, you need to move the pocket. But there's adjustments that are made in the game, and you're giving and I tell people this. I understand. I got a lot of flack for this from fans, but I got a lot of good feedback from coaches. I understand when fans go, oh, we need to throw the ball to tight end. We need to do this or that or this. And I always say is like the guys, you don't get to the SEC because you're a bad football coach. Like you're the elite of the elite. Like you don't just start there. There's a reason that you have that job. And those guys are as smart as it possibly gets. There's nothing that you've thought of that they haven't thought of. And a lot more. And when you're talking about like mid-game adjustments and things like that, now you're taking elite of the elite minds in college football, and you're giving them immediate feedback, and they can see things in real time. And so when you're watching college football now, it's more like an NFL game, to where a lot of times the team that's dominating in the first quarter, it's usually the other team, if they're worth their salt, they got a good team, they're probably going to come back, and they're probably going because they're going to make adjustments. You know, used to a team that dominated early usually dominated the game. Well, that's why the NFL has still pictures. They don't have video. They have still pictures. And so you see it in the NFL. Well, now you're giving the elite video. I mean, the scheme changes. You're seeing the real-time chess match happen live during the games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, again, fascinating stuff. Really appreciate your time, Tyler. But now, I mean, I could continue on, but just the thing on top of my head, maybe a conversation for a different day, but everyone's so hyper focused on the playoff now. What's going to happen, particularly in the SEC, when your team's eliminated and you got all these guys are pulling themselves out of the games now, not traveling with the team. It could be a shit show in November for teams that are out of the playoff discussion. But I hope I'm wrong on that, but early sign is probably not. Can you tell my audience how to follow you and how to find your show?
So we're at McCready and Siskey. We're live at 2 p.m. Central on the MPW Digital YouTube channel. If you're trying to find the podcast download version, anywhere you get your podcast, but we're on the you have to look up MPW Digital. We're on that feed. We're on all the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, on McCready and Siskey, and then just come by and say hello. We have fun.